In today's tutorial video, we're going to learn about compliance forms, which is a very important process that takes place prior to applying for a building permit and begins with the Planning and Zoning Department. What is the purpose of a compliance form? It serves a twofold purpose. One is it is a way for the reviewing departments, and by reviewing departments I'm talking about Planning and Zoning, Public Works, and Utilities, to verify that the plans that you, the applicant, is submitting for permitting match the site plan that was approved by City Council or the construction plans that were approved during the site plan review stage. So you will find that when something goes through the site plan review process, which normally does not involve you as the applicant, but takes place before you are applying for a building permit to have something built on this site, this site plan is something that is approved through City Council, and it is something that the Planning and Zoning Department looks at to ensure that whatever you are proposing is either matching what is in the site plan, what was approved at that stage, or doesn't substantially alter the site itself. It is a way for the reviewing departments to review proposed changes to a site after the site plan has been approved by City Council, and these changes may be exterior or interior to the site. They are normally interior changes, but they could also be exterior, for example, if it involves fencing the site or if it involves dumpster enclosures. But normally they are interior, and I'm referring to tenant improvements, tearing down walls, installing new walls, interior build-outs, things of that nature. Just to give you a few examples of when you would need a compliance form, which almost always is required for commercial developments, you will find that if you go straight to the building department to apply for a building permit, they will refer you back to the Planning and Zoning Department to apply to submit a compliance form. I mentioned if you're placing a fence around the commercial property or residential subdivision, it will require a compliance form. If your site plan for a new building was approved by City Council recently, the next step is to submit a compliance form for the site work. If you have a new tenant moving into your commercial building and is proposing to do interior renovations, I mentioned tearing down walls, installing new ones, compliance form will be required. If you're installing electrical vehicle charging stations in your parking lot at your commercial site, which is becoming increasingly popular, it will require a compliance form. As I mentioned prior, it begins with the Planning and Zoning Department. Our focus is on comparing the plans that you are submitting, your construction drawings, to the approved site plan. As I mentioned, that was approved by City Council at some point. After Planning and Zoning reviews it, it goes on to Utilities, and from Utilities it goes on to Public Works. Their focus will be on comparing what you submit to either utility lines, or in the case of Public Works, that involves paving, grading, and drainage plans. So construction plans, both Utilities and Public Works will focus on those plans, and they will compare it to what you are submitting. There are three categories of compliance forms, and you will also see this category split when you apply online, which is something we're going to cover later on in this presentation. If you're doing an interior improvement, it used to be that you would separate interior improvement from tenant improvement. We just blended the two since they are essentially very similar or the same thing. So if you're doing an interior improvement, you're going to need a compliance form, which in the second part of this presentation, I will show you how to access that. You will need the approved site plan that was approved by City Council at whichever point in time. We're going to discuss how you can obtain that, and of course the building plans that you are submitting. If it's for a new building, as I mentioned, let's say you recently got a site plan was approved at City Council, and now you're submitting for the site work for that project, then you will be submitting the compliance form again, the approved site plan, the other plans submitted to the Site Plan Review Committee. I'm referring to the construction plans that Public Works and Utilities will focus on, as well as the building plans that you are submitting for the work that you're doing. And there is another category that put as other, which basically is everything else. Let's say, for example, fencing, that would fall under other. That would require a compliance form, the approved site plan, and the construction plans. Or, for example, in the case of a fence, it would be the fence detail drawings. So how do you obtain an approved site plan? More often than not, you had nothing to do with this site plan that was approved by City Council. It's normally the owner of the site where you will be doing work at. So you can ask the owner of the building for that approved site plan. It could be that the developer that represented him in the site plan review stage gave him a copy of that approved site plan. So you can ask the owner, or of course you can contact us because we will have a copy of that approved site plan since we were the ones who stamped it after it was approved by City Council. You can contact us at 772-871-5213, or you can email us at planning@cityofpsl.com to obtain that approved site plan. If your compliance form is approved, and for it to be approved, it has to be approved by Planning and Zoning, Utilities, and Public Works. Once Public Works approves it, they will notify you via our online portal, which we're going to talk about in the second part of this presentation. Then after that compliance form has been approved by all three reviewing departments, then you are ready to apply for a building permit with the building department. You can contact them for their permit application process. Their number is 772-871-5132. It's always a good idea to contact them to find out how they want you to submit for that permit application. But one thing is for sure, you will need to download that compliance form from our online portal called Fusion to submit along with your permit application to the building department. It is very rare that your compliance form would be denied, but should it be denied, you would have to submit another compliance form. Give you an example of when it could be denied is if the planner for Planning and Zoning determines that the proposed change is significant enough to merit a site plan amendment instead. Site plan amendment is a completely different process. It is more costly, but what it involves is indeed showing the change that you want to make to the site on the site plan itself. And the code specifies what triggers that site plan amendment. In other words, what is a big enough change that the compliance form process is not sufficient to address it, and it would require another process which we call a site plan amendment. Those instances are few, but they do occur, and it is, again, driven by the written code. At this time, I want to transition to showing you on our site where you can access an actual compliance form, and also to introduce you to Fusion and how to apply through our new online system. Here's how to find a compliance form on our website. First, go to cityofpsl.com/pz applications. Scroll down to the Permit Applications for Compliance widget and select Compliance Forms Commercial Development. This will open the form. Step 1 shows what needs to be submitted for each type of request. It's also shown in tabular form on the PowerPoint presentation. Step 2 shows the process flow for how the compliance form gets approved. The contact info for the reviewing department is also found in Step 2, except for the building department. That number was provided during the PowerPoint presentation. The instructions for how forms and plans need to be submitted to the building department may be pre-COVID. Please contact them as to how they want you to submit. Project name should include not only the area where work is being performed, but also the kind of work being performed. Planning and Zoning project number and zoning can be found on the approved site plan. To access our online system called Fusion, return to the previous page where you access the compliance form, scroll up, and on the left-hand side, click the green button, and this will direct you to Fusion. On the left-hand side, you will see Begin Submission. Select that. If you're logging in for the first time, you will need to create an account first by selecting Create a New Account. Once you're logged in, the online application will show up. Under Project Type, select Compliance Form, then Next. You'll be asked to enter the P number or project number you should have obtained from the approved site plan. Otherwise, as noted in red, you can contact our department via phone or email to obtain the project number. Under Request Type, the same options found in the compliance form are found here: Interior Improvement, New Building, and Other. For this example, we're going to select Interior Improvement and then Next. Under Subject Street Address, enter the address you are doing the work on. For utility provider, it will almost always be City of Port St. Lucie unless the address is located in St. Lucie West. For this example, we will be using City of Port St. Lucie. Select that, then Next. Under primary email address, enter your email address and enter your information under agent/applicant since you are the applicant, then Next. Add the emails of those you want to receive a confirmation once the application has been submitted or every time there is an update with your application, then Next. Under Attachments, you will see the required documents discussed in the PowerPoint. Upload them along with the compliance form by clicking Select File or dropping them where it says Drop File Here, then Next. Under Payment, you will have the option to save your application and return to it later by selecting Save to Draft. If you select Submit and Pay Later, your application will be submitted and one of our admin staff will contact you in the upcoming days to submit application fee payment. If you select Submit and Pay Online, you will be redirected to the payment portal. where you can submit application fee payment via debit or credit card. After processing payment, your application will be submitted as well. Thank you for tuning into today's compliance form tutorial video. We hope that you have found this informative and feel confident enough to submit a compliance form online. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to our department at 772-871-5212, or you can check us out online at cityofpsl.com/pz.